Welcome to The Business That Pays with Adam Tolliver from Artisan Financial Strategies, where we mind the business that pays you. In this podcast, we empower successful families and business owners to make informed decisions about their finances through courageous conversations. Through his expertise as a practicing investment advisor representative with Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor, Adam teaches you how to create a wealth ecosystem by combining a practical technical framework with your personal, family, and community values. Join us for this journey where Adam normalizes sustainable wealth building and gives you the keys to make courageous, proactive financial decisions.
A financial plan is about more than money. A comprehensive plan that encourages you to stick with your roadmap needs goals, and not just monetary goals. Adam Tolliver walks us beyond the numbers with questions that can help your financial professional create a plan specific to you. I'm Patrice Sikora. I think the title you gave this episode says it all. For the love of money, questions that bring meaning and intention to your finances. Talk about that.
Absolutely. Patrice, this is a really important topic for me. Even those who will argue with you until they're blue in the face that they love money, if you push them hard enough to expound, you'll get them to describe things that are not about money, but more so what the money can do for you. And these questions and goals are really meant to bring that type of texture and meaning to your finances so that we can get to the real answer about what it is that you want money to do for you, how you want it to speak for you, how you want it to represent and bring to life the experiences that you and your family and your community want to have. Like how does my wealth interact with the people around me, and what do I do with it in order to bring those things to fruition? And all of those things help to create some actual stickiness to a financial plan, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is compel ourselves to stick to a plan that brings about the types of outcomes that we want. And if we're under the impression that it's just about facts and figures, it's very hard to get there. It's very hard to do that effectively.
There's got to be some emotional component to this.
Absolutely. Always.
Yeah. All right. Now, you have goals, a number of goals, but they're pretty broad categories. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, in general, I like to bucket things in these goals. And of course, this is not expansive, but it does a decent job, I think, of getting people to start thinking through their money in ways that more well-rounded and more relevant to their actual lives. So we think about behavioral goals, which is, what habits do you want to practice? Do you want to spend less? Do you want to save more? Do you want to be more consistent about your behavior with your money? So behavior goals, what changes are you looking to see? Then we've got things like familial goals. Like what are some of the major milestones that you want to plan for with your family? Are there any particular hobbies and interests that, your son or daughter have that are really important to them that you want to help them be able to realize? Is there something that your spouse has always wanted to do that you want to be able to do for them? Those types of things. And then what are kind of the normal milestones that we think about, like paying for an education or paying for weddings, paying for down payments on homes? So familial goals are kind of in this bucket. And then when we think about life experience and meaning, we think about sort of future emotional state goals. And that one can be a little fuzzy, right? So when I say fuzzy, I mean, we may get into a conversation about your story around money and what your history has been. And are you anxious because of past experiences? Are you nervous? Do you not trust yourself? And what are you trying to move towards? Do you want to move towards some sense of security? And so we get into kind of these, and I'm by all means not a therapist, although
I was just going to say, you sound almost like a psychotherapist here.
Although, many of my colleagues in my profession, and I would agree, we do end up in sort of this coaching mode where we have to get to the bottom of what drives a behavior and why have we, what has our history been and what has our experience been? And then what do you want to change about that? how would you feel if things were right financially? And what does things being right financially mean to you? Those are conversations that are abstract, right? That's not I need to save $500 a month for the next 15 years. You know what I mean?
How forthcoming are clients with questions like this? As you say, it's not a, well, $500 here, $1,000 there, and yes, I want to, stay for college for my kid. This is something that really you've got to look deep inside yourself.
Absolutely. And how forthcoming a client is really depends on the relationship and whether or not I, as an advisor, have set the pace and the stage for them, and they've given me permission to have this conversation with them. They have to be bought in. Mm-hmm. And, you've heard me say this before, but, the relationship between an advisor and a client, if it's going to work, it's going to be intimate, and it's going to be one that spans over years and years, and through some of the best times in our lives and some of the worst times in our lives, there are going to be implications that impact that financial plan. And the advisor is going to be right there in the middle of it. And so from the beginning, when speaking with the client before they hire me, I make sure that they understand that this is the way that myself and my team, everyone in our office, this is how we view this relationship. It's a professional relationship, but it's deeply personal. Mm-hmm. And you can't avoid the personal side of it, because ultimately we need to build a plan that you actually see yourself in, that you can stick with, but also you understand how it supports you in all of those times we mentioned, the good and the bad. So it's about permission. It's about setting the stage, and it's about making sure that we are going on this journey together and we're bought in, and you understand why we need to have these conversations.
Okay. The next category, personal development goals.
Yes. Personal development goals. A lot of the people that I work with are high achievers. I would say the vast majority of them are. They are accomplished, they are smart, they are ambitious, and they also have a lot of interest. And so what are the areas that you are focused on improving in? Skills, career, personal relationships. And really, I think about that as like, what areas of your life are you invested in improving? Where are you spending your time and your energy and your intention on developing? And those are goals that people don't always necessarily marry with finances, but whether that involves going to certain conferences every year, or continuing education, or certifications and designations, or additional degrees, whatever the case may be, these are some things that could impact decisions that we make from a cash flow standpoint. But also as an advisor, I think about them as opportunities for us as professionals to make sure that we understand what motivates our clients. And if we can have those conversations and have that context, we may be able to support them a little bit better along the way.
And then philanthropic. I like this one.
Yeah. What are the areas where you lend your time, talent, and resources? And how are those places impacted by what you do or don't do financially, but also how do you want them to be impacted? How does, like I said earlier, how does your wealth interact with the community and impact the community around you? And how important is that to you? And of course, these are things that vary from person to person. Some people don't think that they're necessarily philanthropically inclined. And sometimes it's just a matter of awareness. Others know for a fact, hey, I've been active in my church since I was a kid. This is really important to me, and I want to, do what I can to support my church. For others, it may be their college alma mater, be a fraternity or sorority, whatever the case may be. But we like to think through these things.
All right, good categories, great categories. But how do you get into them? What are the questions that you ask?
So we do our best to avoid sort of this rote mechanical, let's talk about philanthropy. Let's talk about your family. It's definitely not a script. It's conversational, and it's evolving over time. But a lot of the questions that we ask will be kind of pointed and open. So ultimately, we are talking less, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear from our clients. Tell me about what's happening. So when we think about life and values, for example, think, hey, like, reflecting on your daily habits, what small change could bring you closer to a life that you'd love more? And something like that might not have anything to do with money. It might be about where you're spending your time. It might be about the activities that you're engaged in. It might be who you're spending your time with, right? The goal is to get you to think about it and share with us. And hopefully we can expound on that conversation from there. When we're thinking about family legacy, imagine the stories that your family will tell about you in the future. And how do you hope yeah, right?
Yes.
And how do you hope your financial decisions will be a part of those stories? And sometimes you can think about that in terms of your own life. If you think about parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, maybe something was done or not done, or conversations were had or not had, and they impact the rest of your family one way or another. And sometimes that can be a really sticky point, Patrice. I mean,
Yes.
intimate, important conversations between family members, there's a lot won and lost in those conversations when they're had or not had. And sometimes people can do a better job of supporting you, and you can do a better job of supporting them if you are more open to having those conversations. So those are the types of questions that we get into.
I think you hit at something very important there. The conversation's not had, that later on you think, I wish we'd talked about that.
Mm-hmm. And if, as an advisor, we're only having conversations about your wallet and your portfolio, that's where we drop the ball, because that's a blind spot. And sometimes you need the encouragement and the perspective, and sometimes even the facilitation, which we will do. Like, hey, how do I broach this subject with my mom or my kids? How do I talk to them about something scary like my mortality? How do I talk to anybody about that? People don't like to think about their death, let alone talk to people who depend on them about it, and deal with people in death, illness, disability, you name it, all types of terrible situations, divorce, a lot of D's there. But we have these conversations, and if we're proactive about having them, and we're thoughtful about the types of outcomes that we're comfortable with and the types of outcomes that we're not comfortable with, and sometimes we're making a decision between multiple uncomfortable outcomes and scenarios.
Yeah.
But if we have them, we can create more intention, and you can have some semblance of control over what happens to the people that you care about.
Keep going. You've got other questions here, and I don't want to stop the train of thought here. You're doing so well. You explain things so well. Keep going with the future self.
Yeah. And so when we think about like the vision of your future self, this is one of my favorites. And a question might be, when you picture your future self, what feelings do you most hope to experience, and how can your financial choices help realize them? When I met my mentor, Meredith Moore, one of the first things that she did was she took myself and a group of other advisors. She's my mentor, now business partner, which is an amazing thing to say.
That is.
But she took us through a Jim Rohn goal setting exercise where we spent the better part of an hour writing out all of these goals that we had for ourselves in every aspect of our lives, career-wise, family-wise, financially, community engagement, all of the things that we wanted to accomplish. And one of the things that this exercise has you do after you list all these things is describe the type of person that you need to be in order to accomplish the things that you listed.
Oh my.
And I read that once a week. I
Really?
read the answer to that question once a week. And for me, it's kind of like planting a flag in the ground that propels me forward through the future. And I like to do that with my clients. We don't necessarily go through that entire exercise, but I want them to describe who it is that they want to be. And that context, I think, is valuable for them in general. And then it's valuable for me as their advisor, because now I've got, again, more context, more understanding of what drives you, what motivates you, who motivates you. so that when we're making decisions about how to support that vision with your financial plan, we're not missing the mark.
That is incredible. The future you, what you hope to be, want to be, that would take more than an hour, Adam. A lot more than an hour.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's a really powerful exercise. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it because I have felt myself moving along that spectrum ever since we did that workshop in 2017. So I do credit a good bit of what I've been able to accomplish and hopefully what I'm helping my clients to accomplish to that moment, the fact that we did that workshop.
And then something that kind of dovetails into it is your lifestyle, the ideal lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could wake up tomorrow having achieved your ideal lifestyle, what would be the most notable changes? Is it about where you live? Is it about who you spend time with? Is it about the resources and options that you have, resources and access to options that your family has? What is it about your lifestyle that, you know, is less than ideal or more than ideal? And sometimes this ends up being an exercise in gratitude where people might reflect and think, you know what, I think I'm living what I've always wanted to live. And that can be a very humbling reminder, a very gratifying reminder to experience. And then other times, you may have some genuine reflection about, well, I'm unhappy more often than I would like to be, and my main stressor is my job or my career. Now, this is important, obviously, because we spend the majority of our time working, right? And if we're not satisfied or gratified from the work that we do, and I'm your financial planner, and the engine that runs your financial plan is the income generated from your career, well, we should probably have a good conversation about that, right?
Yeah.
I have this conversation very often with younger professionals who are in professional services. So they may be attorneys or accountants or consultants. And let's say they are an associate on a partner track and they're making good money and there's much better money on the horizon. But as they go further down that track, they're looking at their junior partners and their senior partners, and they're looking at their lifestyle and they're thinking about their current workload, and they're like, I don't know that I can really sustain this pace. I don't know that this is something that I want to commit to for the next 10 years. So I have the conversation of, do you find this work engaging and rewarding enough to continue down the path? And if not, for how long? And that may determine how aggressive or conservative we are about investing. How much money should we put aside, knowing that your next career move may or may not reach the same income potential, so that you can have some better balance in your life? So that question is a really important one, because you can think about it from all aspects, and whatever comes to the client's mind is typically the thread that we'll pull on to learn a little bit more. But I always want to know that.
Yeah. And then making an impact.
Yeah. If you had the power to make a lasting impact in any area of your community or the world, what would it be? And how do your financial choices contribute to this vision? This is going back to thinking about philanthropy, thinking about community, thinking about our connection to other people. A lot of the times, it's even about how you're spending your time as opposed to how you're spending your money, right? So like, do you do any volunteering? Do you coach your kids' little league? Do you participate in a committee at the school with PTA or whatever it might be? But why is that important to you? And if we dig a little bit deeper into it, maybe we can discover some ways that you can create an impact and support. And the great thing about financial planning is that, as a planner, we're very creative and resourceful. So we often find times to create multiple benefits out of doing something that you love or enjoy to do. And so that's a very important thread to pull on as well.
These are huge deep dives, Adam. I'm sure you know that since you do this. But how long does it take? Do you give your clients the question or a couple of questions and say, go home, think about it, and come back? Or do you ask them to answer right then? And then do they come back anyway and say, I thought more about that. Let me change it.
It's usually in the moment. We're usually having a conversation in our planning process, in the meetings. And one of the things that we do is, we have a sort of initial get organized meeting and call where we're looking at the facts and figures, which are important, but beyond the quantitative, we focus on this qualitative values type of conversation. And we try to make it as casual and natural as we can, just getting to know our clients and what their immediate objectives are and what their values are. But we often do find that these are things that we're just going to continue to learn and dig deeper into as we work together over time. It becomes a very just iterative process. And so a lot of times we can get a good answer and we may go really deep on one or two of these in one meeting. And that's really all we have time for, but we get a lot of value and context from that. And then, like you said, someone may come back later and say, I appreciate that conversation, but I had a lot more to say about this. And I thought about that. And we love that ultimately, because again, the better we know and understand our clients, the better work that we can do for them. And the more likely we are to stick to a plan long term.
This is true. Is there something you haven't mentioned you want to, or have we pretty much covered it?
Well, I will say, I guess maybe there's a bit of a noticeable theme with our first 3 episodes here of the season, but a lot of it is really all about getting people to think about their money beyond the facts and figures. It's very easy to think about it in a very sterile way, but these are ideas and elements of our lives that intersect and have an impact on our well-being in so many ways. And oftentimes I've come to learn that people don't necessarily know how to contextualize those things. And in many times, that's a big part of my role and my responsibility in working with people. And I don't want people to miss that value. I hope that people get that out of their relationship with their financial planner.
How can listeners reach you, Adam?
You can reach me at workingwithadam.com.
Goals and dreams. Learn more about reaching yours. Follow this podcast for new shows, share with others, and let Adam know what you're thinking. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for listening to Business That Pays. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of the Artisan Financial Strategies or Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial professional provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment strategies.
Adam Tolliver, registered representative offering securities through New York Life Securities, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a licensed insurance agency. 1125 Cambridge Square, Suite C, Alpharetta, Georgia, 30009, 404-210-9311. Financial advisor offering investment advisory services through Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor. New York Life Securities, LLC, and Eagle Strategies, LLC are New York Life companies. Artisan Financial Strategies, LLC, is not owned or operated by New York Life Securities, LLC, or its affiliates. Neither Artisan Financial Strategies, LLC, nor its advisors provide tax, legal, or accounting advice.